Ladies, how do I say this? You're being misled. Oh, you go girl. Oh, it was him all. It was not your fault. It was his fault. He doesn't know what he has, right? Blah blah blah. All that, you look great in that dress. No, you don't have to lose any weight. No, that does not make you look like an Oompa Loompa. Absolutely not. You look fantastic. Yeah, I have no idea why those guys are ghosting you. You get my point. Greetings and salutations. Coming to you live from Danger Lounge, where every day is Saturday night and all your dreams come true. And today, in another segment of Flirting with Danger, we're going to discuss what else? Flirting, sex, relationships, becoming your ultimate self, your best self, and being a general, spectacular, and dynamic person. Living life as art, living creatively, creating a masterpiece that is your life and your lifestyle. Living like you're on vacation. Before we get started on today's topic, we're going to throw some things around Danger Lounge today again. Remember to drop kick that like button and to share it with somebody, friend, relative, family pet, people you don't like. It doesn't really matter to me. But do it and do it now. And I promise you, you'll get that check in the mail. Anyway, okay, so let's talk a little bit about today's topic. Today's topic is for the ladies. Ladies, you know, this is going to be a tough one to breach. And the reason why is because you're not going to want to hear this. Now, as with a lot of social dynamics / dating topics, there's a lot of really deeply entrenched paradigms that when you challenge them and cause introspection, it can be difficult, and people put a wall up and sometimes have a rather visceral response in a negative way to what's being said. And that's akin to like when you're a kid and you learn there's no Santa Claus, right? People don't want to hear it and they get mad at the messenger rather than the actual message and stop to think about it. So what I'm going to ask you to do is suspend any preconceived notions that you might have of what you perceive things to be. And if I say something that doesn't jive with that, don't get annoyed with me. Suspend that hostility. Let it marinate. Let it sizzle a little bit. Consider it. Have some logical thinking, some critical thinking, and revisit it and see if you are so emotional about it still. And you might find that, man, you might have a point there. And I know this to be true sometimes because I've had women come to me and literally sit down with me and talk about their relationships or have questions about social dynamics or dating, whatever. And I'll say something to them. I'll shift their paradigm a little bit. I'll say, would you consider this? And I'll tell them something that they may not have heard of before, at least not in that way. And immediately, and it's something that I know to be true, and immediately they have a visceral emotional response to it. And some of these people I'm friends with, so they don't get mad at me. They don't shoot the messenger. But you can see I've annoyed them a little bit, and it causes some sort of reaction because it's painful for them to hear this. Because some of these things, paradigms are, if they are paradigms, that means that sometimes their identity is tied to this. Sometimes life decisions have been made based off these belief systems. And if that is removed, and it's possible that that's paradigm has been compromised, maybe there's a shift in thinking and perspective, and that may not be completely accurate, what they were making decisions on. It's very common for people to it's not stable. It's scary. It's the unknown, right? So a lot of times people will just go ahead and shift and revert back to their comfort zones, knowing that's not necessarily true. But the strong people, the courageous people, will want to learn more, right? They'll want to not double down on their previous philosophy, but they'll want to learn more. But like, you know what? Let me consider it. Maybe it doesn't sit well with them ultimately, but they've at least considered it, and maybe they'll learn something. And that's how we grow, after all, right? So let's get into it. Let's do some flirting with danger, shall we? I'm going to say something that's probably not going to come as a surprise to some of you out there, and I know the men. Ladies, how do I say this? You're being misled. You're being misled by marketers. You're being misled by people who are trying to sell you shit all the time, by lawyers, divorce courts. Okay, you're being misled by. They want your money. They want your opinion. They want your vote. You're misled by politicians. You're definitely misled in relationships for your sex. Okay, and your attention from men. And here's the thing. Generally speaking, it's not always malintended. Men, for example, if we're using men in this context, men want you to see them in their best light if they like you. And most men like women. If you're pleasant enough and you're even remotely attractive, they want to put their best foot forward and please you and you find them attractive because they find you attractive. And so they're not always going to, and they don't want to hurt. Here's the other thing. We look at you as our natural inclination is to protect you. Not only protect you physically, but protect you emotionally and mentally as well, right or wrong. And so a lot of times we're not going to tell you the honest truth about things. Now, again, there are malintended politicians and certainly marketers, and there's agendas all over the place nowadays, right? Different movements in society that are definitely not going to tell you the truth, and they want to implant a certain narrative in your head so they can use you as a mouthpiece for a different agenda. We're not going to get into that crap right now. But in terms of the microcosm, the day-to-day living in that perspective, in terms of dating, for example, you're not told everything because, A, people want to protect your feelings. I know a lot of you out there consider yourself strong, independent women, and that's a beautiful thing, and in many regards you are, but not all men perceive you that way. Does that make sense? And not all of you are actually that way, just like not all men are that way. But for example, let's say you're growing up, right? Let's say you have a brother. Brother and his friends are going to be pretty honest with him. They're going to give him a hard time. You suck at that sport. You got to get better. Oh, that presentation was terrible. By the way, you look completely ridiculous in that. You need to wear something else. You look like an idiot. I'm just giving examples, right? Or, the reason that girl's not hitting on you, buddy, is because you don't know what you're doing. You got no game. Oh, that's pathetic, right? No shame in the way. There is no diplomacy. There's no sparing your feelings. There's no safe spaces. None of that shit. They're going to tell you straight out. Now, the nicer ones are going to be a little bit more, a little less candid about it. But for the most part, they know where they stand. And by the way, they know where they stand with you. Men know where they stand with women. Okay, they know if other women like them, and women are not shy about telling a lot of times if the guy is being annoying or being a dick or he's, they don't find him attractive. They're going to get feedback instantaneously because after all, you control the sex and marketplace for dating. You're the one who determines whether that guy has success or not, generally speaking. Oh, this better lighting now. Women control the sexual marketplace. We're the ones who have to adapt to your preferences. We know where we stand. So that brutality, in a sense, that brutal honesty, that constant feedback, that constant need to get better so that we are attracted to you, you don't have to worry about. And that's good and bad, right? In one fashion, you're like, well, it's cool because, look, guys, generally speaking, are not going to be mean to you, for example, if we use the example of coming up to a bar. And, if a woman approaches a guy at a bar, first of all, he's going to be flattered, even if she's not attracted to him. He's not generally going to give her bad feedback. He's going to cushion it. He's going to be very nice, as most women will do in that scenario as well. Men, generally speaking, want to protect your emotions. Let's say you got a brother, and the dad is going to probably treat the daughter a little more softly, right? He's not like, you moron, you idiot. All right, get your shit together, boy. Figure it out. make this shit happen. You got to do X, Y, and Z. These are the expectations, and you're failing. Okay, you're gonna get constant feedback from your dad if you have a good dad. You're gonna now. There's some dads that are better at diplomacy and communicating, but you get the point. If you're an older brother, same thing, right? I had a lot of male cousins, so I was getting feedback from them, right? Uncles, feedback from them in a good way. This is positive. In a male's world, this can be positive, right? Because unless you're shrinking away from it, you generally want to get better. You want to improve yourself. You want to be more successful. So we're pretty good at taking critique, as long as it's done in a respectful manner. If you listen to what women's feedback is to other women, oh, you go, girl. Oh, it was him all. It was not your fault. It was his fault. He doesn't know what he has, right? Blah blah blah. All that. You look great in that dress. No, you don't have to lose any weight. No, that does not make you look like an Oompa Loompa. Absolutely not. You look fantastic. Yeah, I have no idea why those guys are ghosting you. You get my point, and this is true. This is true. You're not going to get legitimate feedback. Let me give you another example, a real life example here before we move on. And again, don't kill the messenger here. Don't hate me. I'm just telling you something you need to know. You're not getting authentic feedback. They're not telling you what they really think. And that's why I kind of feel bad for women in that regard, because they really don't get the lessons or whatever. Unless they have, here's the exception. They have a father they have a good relationship with, a healthy, strong relationship with, where he can communicate well with her, not hurt her feelings, but at the same time provide some feedback where she can take that constructive criticism and be better. This is why I say one of the key tenets to dating quality women is make sure they have an older brother or even a younger brother, but preferably an older one, because the older brother is going to grow up and she's going to get some feedback. She is. And if you notice these women, look at your own life. Look at the very well-adjusted women in your life, whether you're a guy or a girl. Girls that you may want to date. Like, oh, they're really super cool. They're down to earth. They're not entitled. They're not high maintenance. They're not loud and obnoxious. They can take a little bit of criticism. They can take a little bit of hazing and they give it right back, and they take it as a joke. They're generally women that guys want to be around, right? In many of those scenarios, they had one or two things or both. They had an older brother or multiple older brothers. They gave them feedback and didn't lie to them. And then also they saw those brothers growing up and what the brothers struggled with when dating with women, and how the brothers perceive things and how men perceive things differently than women. So they have that insight, which may not exist otherwise, especially with female sisters who tend to compete and be really catty sometimes. I've dated a lot of those women. Good Lord. Oh my God, talk about immature and childish. But the men, the women also grow up with healthy fathers, right? Fathers that communicate well with them, that protect them, but also are real with them. You know what I mean? And they have a healthy relationship there. Again, it's not always necessary, but I think about all the women in your life. If you're a guy or a woman, makes no difference. Think about the really well-adjusted, emotionally stable, confident of themselves. They're not seeking external validation, really sure of themselves, really pleasant to be around, just a really pleasing, nice person, down to earth. Probably a decent sense of humor also, usually, with these women. 9 out of 10 times, you're going to find they have an older brother in their life, and they grow up with a good father. And probably a good mother also, but I'm just saying, good father. 9 times out of 10. So that's one of the things I say. If you want to date somebody that's cool, see what their family dynamics are. Very important there. So lastly, to sort of reiterate my point here, again, women don't tend to know where they really stand. There's a lot of women walking around right now who are, in terms of like looks, for example, just take looks, be superficial here, who are 5s out of 10. They're dead average. But they think, or maybe they don't think it, maybe they're overcompensating, but they have this obscure or this distorted perception of how attractive they actually are. They think they're an 8 or a 9. And they're like, no, you're not. It's just that every guy is telling you what you want to hear. Why? because they want to sleep with you. It doesn't even mean, and you're not going to want to hear this. It doesn't even mean they want to date you seriously. They might be putting out feelers to see if, you never know, but sex is not a good barometer for if they consider you as a relationship, long-term relationship partner. As I've said, men compartmentalize just like women do. We put you in categories. You put us in the friend zone. That's no good. Don't want to go there. Fuck no. You put us in, short term now, maybe long term. Or, I would marry this guy, right? There's different categories you put us in depending on our behaviors and, what you seem to be pros and cons. Same thing with men. And you're not going to know what category we put you in because we're not going to be honest with you because, A, we don't want to hurt you. And also, if you've been told your whole life that you're a 9 and you can do no wrong, and people are always trying to cater to your whims and emotional needs. I'm not saying that's the case all the time, but it's a lot. It's a good bet that if I'm the first one that's telling you this truth, you're probably not going to like that too much. You're going to associate me as being a dick. Although there are some women, in terms of guys, if you want to attract a woman sometimes, they're actually going to respect the hell out of that if you do it correctly because you stood up to them and you said, no, that's not the case. That's not true for X, Y, and Z reasons. And they're going to see you as being a real man. They're going to see you, as long as you do it respectfully. And they're going to be like, why doesn't he respond the same way all guys? Why is it? Because he's not a pansy and he's not a white knight thinking he's going to sleep with you. Because remember, all men are trying to get to the same goal, which is to sleep with you. Whether or not they find you all that attractive or not, you could be a 5, but they're still trying to sleep with you. Doesn't mean they want to date you. A lot of women have a hard time understanding that because women don't operate in that way, generally speaking. And they're not, and the guy is not going to, again, tell you the truth because he's trying to sleep with you. And all guys have, that's what I was trying to get to. All guys have the same destination they're trying to get to. They just have different strategies for getting there. And different guys' approaches are better than others. So the white knights out there that you think are so nice that you put in a friend category right away, that are bending over backwards, kissing your ass and bringing you flowers on the first date and shit like that, who don't know any better, who come across as very desperate, well, that's their strategy. They're waiting for scraps. They're waiting for you to throw them some. If I just stick around long enough, their boyfriend will screw up and I'll be there to take advantage. I'll be the shoulder to cry on. Sometimes that works. The one time out of 100 that works. I don't know if that would be very good, but right? And so that's their strategy. The other guy just doesn't give a fuck. And he's like, this is what it is. I'm going to call a spade a spade. This is what's going on here. Maybe no one's told you this before, but it's the truth. Take or leave it. What do you think about that? And guess what? A lot of women respect him and sleep with him because you're saying the truth. But regardless, what you need to understand is they're both headed in the same direction. They're both trying to get in the same spot, which is in your pants. So all I'm saying is, yes, guys do not tell you the truth. And most of your women girlfriends do not tell you the truth. Your best friends are the ones who are willing to tell you what you don't want to hear sometimes. Few and far between. I find that guy friends are willing to do that a lot more than women are going to do. And guys are not, but guy friends for you are not going to because they're trying to sleep with you. They're going to tell you whatever it is that helps them get laid. Maybe they might shit on your boyfriend so that they can get laid. It's shameless. Shameless. And they don't even want to date you half the time. They just want to get laid. So let me give you an example real quick to illustrate my point. I was just talking to my cousin, my buddy, on the phone. And he's like, we were talking about the same phenomenon. This is what gave me the inspiration to make this particular video. And he's like, yeah, he's to illustrate my point. I was like, they're being lied to you all the time. And we're talking about like how things aren't really attractive, that at least in long-term, maybe if to sleep with them's fine. And one of the topics that came up with was tattoos. And he and I always talked about that. It's like, I mean, a subtle tattoo's fine, and we're always going to tell you what you want to hear. But the truth of the matter is, if a woman's got a sleeve, for example, it's like, what are you, a sailor? I don't care if it's trendy. We have preferences also. It doesn't matter to me what's trendy. There's a lot of people that look great with tattoos. Nothing wrong with that, especially on guys. But on women, it's become trendy. So that's why it's so popular among women. It's trendy. Does it look good? That's a different story. Two different things. It might be, you might find it appealing because it's trendy, but is it really that attractive to men? They're going to tell you what you want to hear. And if they're tattooed up, well, then maybe it is attractive to them if they're really tattooed up. But if you have like a sleeve and you have all these tattoos going, we both said the same thing. It's not just it's physically more masculine, which is not really that much of a turn on. But it's also this. What does it say about the person's personality? They're into trends, possibly. Also, it's like they're trying to stand out because they think it makes them stand out. That cutesy little design or the saying or somebody's initials or a pair of lips or something, whatever the fuck it might be, right? Or this is what I got on travel and blah, blah, blah. And this, I went here and I got this when I was 18. Like, whatever the story is. That's what it's about, right? That's how you might perceive it. But the guy perceives it as going, this girl needs validation, external validation, and she thinks it's making her stand out. But what it's actually doing is it's telling us with a huge neon light, you might as well tattoo that on your chest. I need external validation, and I'm really the same as everyone else. I too have been stamped out of the factory because I don't make up my own trends. I just follow all of them. That's what it says. You think you're standing out and you're being unique and individual because you're tattooed. But you really, how does that separate you from anybody else? You want to separate yourself from someone, from another woman? I'll tell you how you really do it. I'm going to make another video on it. It's going to be called bonus points. Be on the lookout for that. We'll call it bonus points. You want to stand out? You really want to be different than these other women and have guys pay attention to you and be like, and take you seriously as somebody, long-term potential? I'm going to make that video and you can be like, oh, I have been lied to. Yes, you have. And it's been by people like me. All of us do that. All of society lies to women. The media does it as well. Politicians do it. They're always trying to take advantage of you because you're emotional by nature. Again, you don't want to hear that because I know you're not weak. I'm not saying you're not strong, independent. I'm just saying that you make decisions emotionally and not rationally. And people don't want to hurt your feelings because you're women and they want to coddle your emotions and they want to sleep with you. How's that for brutal honesty? Again, don't hate the messenger. So anyway, last point. So he's saying, yeah, that's a total truth. He's like, I'm at the restaurant the other day and I'm sitting there with my buddy and the girl comes over, she's got the sleeve. And he's like, oh, that's such an interesting tattoo. I really like your your ink. And she's like, oh yeah. And she goes on to the story to tell about why it's unique and blah, 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 the story behind it. And she walks away and my cousin's like, what? Because you were just telling her that, right? You didn't really like it. He goes, hell no. I was just doing that to start a conversation with her and make her feel good. Right? You never know. That's my point. Anyway, guys, smash the like button, share it. Until next time, remember, be safe, but not too safe. Live dangerously.